I've just got a couple of quick principles I want to share with you that help you to understand how to get the most out of both your time, but also out of other people's time. Now, you may have heard these principles before, but it's a really good reminder to remember that that just because you spend an hour on something doesn't mean you get an hour back, right? You don't always achieve the same amount in an hour. I've had many a day, maybe not many a day, but days where I have achieved 8 hours worth of work in 1 hour, and then had another day where I've achieved 1 hour's worth of work in 8. And that's the nature of work. And these principles will help you to understand that, both for yourself, but also for others. So often the work that we're doing in community work is open-ended. And when I say open-ended, it's not like sitting on a factory line where you're creating football, right? Where you just keep doing the same thing again and again, and you know that you make one of those every 20 minutes and you just kind of spit them out. When we're doing community work, you can spend years on an idea or 20 minutes on an idea, and it's the same idea, okay? So the first principle that I just want to share with you quickly is the law of diminishing returns. And basically what this says is that your output, so let's call this output. So what you achieve, and let's think of this as a quality issue, varies in each different project. But the amount of time that we take also varies, right? Now, our assumption is that if I spend more time on something, that there will be this kind of, that the more time I spend, the higher the quality will get. And we expect that that line continues in a straight line. So if we said we've got, if I spend 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, that I will get exactly the same extra benefit per hour. But in actual fact, what we find is that the law of diminishing returns, it says that that's definitely not the case, okay? So what happens is at the beginning, you actually achieve a lot, right? Now, and we've all experienced this in the first 10 minutes of kind of tackling something. We go, oh my goodness, I've achieved this amount. But what happens is at a certain point, it starts to taper off. Now that's okay. If you think about writing a book, the first bit is kind of mapping out the story. You just came up with the whole story. But then as you get to this point, you're talking about editing. Now it's not to say that that editing is not important. It is, but you're getting less back for it. You're getting less return. The frightening thing is that at a certain point, your return starts to drop. Okay. Now the reason that this is important, and this will relate to the next principle as well, the reason that this is important is sometimes we get so carried away trying to create perfection that we spend heaps of time in this space, even though for every hour we're just getting the tiniest bit back, right? So try and concentrate, particularly when you're organizing a project which is really open-ended, concentrate your time and then go, at some point here, I have to cut it off. There's always more work to do. It's never perfect, right? So at some point here, I have to say, okay, we're going to stop. Me checking the reputation of every single band in Victoria and asking 10 people about their opinion for 6 weeks is not going to lead to the kinds of outcomes that we need. So we don't want to spend that time here. But doing a quick check, getting someone's opinion, and then choosing a band, that's worthwhile, right? So think about, pay attention to what you're getting for your hours. And try and stop spending hours and stop getting your staff and volunteers to spend hours once they get to that point where the return is dropping off. Within hour for hour, they're not getting the same benefit. All right, so law of diminishing returns. The longer you spend on something, the less each hour will produce. Now, the second law that I want to share with you, and this one, look, I think you've all experienced it. This one is called, I only looked this up today. I've known the law for a long time. I didn't know the name of it. It's called Parkinson's Law. And the basic idea is that work expands to fill the time available. So if you've got a body of work and you've only got 1 hour, right, it'll be really effective and you'll get it done, okay? But if you have 3 hours, same job, what happens is you'll achieve the same thing and it'll just take a really long time. okay? Now, why is this important? This is important because you should always have time limits on things, even if you don't meet them, okay? One of the biggest traps we can fall into is going, oh, I'll just work overnight on that. No, you need to say, okay, I'm going to get this done in the next 4 hours. Be realistic and pay attention to how long things take, but be realistic and go, okay, I've got 4 hours to get this done, because when you do that, you will achieve the same thing. But if you allow longer, you will just spread the job out and be less effective. There's something about that panic related to time. You don't have to panic, but the pressure related to time that will improve your effectiveness. Okay, so this principle is really important for managing your own time, but also for when you're thinking about planning, Gantt charting and all of that, which we're going to talk about soon, because it says, okay, constrain it and then you get the job done quicker. Don't constrain it, it'll take you forever. Thanks.